What is up, everybody? Matt here with OddsJam, here to give you some college football best bets for championship weekend. So, admittedly, the slate isn't fantastic for championship weekend for college football, but there are still some good games and there are still some good bets to place. So, I'm going to give you my favorite as of right now, recording this early in the week, hopping in on early lines. As of right now, depending on how odds change, I have 3 bets total to lock in. So let's get into it. This first one that I found using OddsJam, pretty cool, filtered specifically for college football. Have some bets pop up. I really like them. But this one that we're going to lock in here is this UNC North Carolina +8 against Clemson. So this bet is at -109 odds on Circa Sports. The Novig odds that OddsJam calculates prices this to be at about -111. So these Novig odds, incredibly important, can be viewed as the quote-unquote true line of what a market should be priced at. OddsJam, they back-tested thousands of betting opportunities trying to determine, all right, what sportsbooks consistently do the best job at pricing odds. That's all they're trying to determine. And with that information, said, okay, here are the sportsbooks. We back-tested all of this and tested all of this data. These are the sports books that do the best job over the course of time. So let's use them to set the markets moving forward, which is exactly what is done here. So these -111 odds, the Novig odds, I like to call it the OddsJam perfect line, come from the sharpest sports books in the world. So that's why you can view them as the true line of a market. Price this at -111. So we are getting better odds on Circa at -109. Making this a positive expected value bet. Of course, just because the bet has positive EV, I don't blindly bet it. There's a couple couple research points that I like to do before deciding whether to place a bet or not. Number one is if you just click open a play, as I've done here, it pulls up where every other sportsbook prices this play. And then for a spread, and this also works for a total and some player props, if you view it in a new tab, it pulls up where every sports book is pricing not only this individual play, like the +8, -8, but also where every sports book prices the main line of the point spread in general. So you can use that information to see where mispriced odds are. But specifically, before I look at that, the +8, -109 at Circa, Pinnacle -125, Bet Rivers -115, Bet 365 -125. All of them having UNC as the more favored outcome, especially Bet 365 and Pinnacle at -125 each. And then if you open this up in a new tab, so we locked in UNC +8, at -109. Look at where every other book prices it. So Bet Online and pretty much every other book prices this at 7.5. So we're getting an extra half point from every other book. And then we also see Pinnacle actually prices this at 7. And that's obviously a big deal, that 7 to 7.5 to 8. Clemson wins by exactly a touchdown. This -7 pushes. The other two win. So that's a big deal getting from backing an underdog, getting from 7 to 8. And but that's pretty much the reason why I like it. We get it at +8. We're getting a half point to a full point better than every other sportsbook that prices this main line. BetMGM, Betfred, PointsBet, FanDuel, Caesars, Bet365, DraftKings, WinBet, Tipico, Bet Rivers, Bet Online, and this one's important, Bet Online, this one right here. Bet Online is a sharp sportsbook that we use to kind of set lines. Prices this at +7.5. And then Pinnacle, as I mentioned, prices it at +7. So beating the closing line by a half point or a full point is a really big deal. So UNC +8 is my first pick for this video. Next up, what we are looking at here is the UCF money line versus Tulane. So this is at +150 at Bet365. The Novig odds that OddsJam calculates prices this to be at about +149. Essentially, we can round up. So we're getting it at +150 is a pretty good outlier. Or I guess better than the Novig odds, I should say. The outlier perspective comes from looking at every other sports book. And moneyline plays, I'll say this, especially for important college football games. Now, UCF versus Tulane isn't like the most important game of the weekend, but it is still championship weekend, right? Price it. So moneyline odds are the most popular bets to make because it's the easiest bet to understand. You just bet the winner or the loser. You don't really have to worry about bad beats, like backdoor covers, stuff like that. So even smaller edges you can find on moneyline bets can be valuable. Like this one here, the plus 150 at Bet365. Look across the board. First of all, you want to look at the sharp books, BetOnline, plus 140, Pinnacle, plus 139. And then no book is giving you better odds than plus 145, right? We see like plus 130, plus 140, plus 145, plus 143, a couple more at plus 145. So this plus 150 is a pretty good price, a pretty good outlier. So this is going to be my second college football bet for this video. And the last one that we are going to lock in here is a big spread, LSU to cover 17.5 in the SEC championship against Georgia. Huge spread, good matchup. Georgia is just on a different level of every other team. Now LSU is having a good year under Brian Kelly's first year in Baton Rouge at LSU, but still 17.5 point favorites. But the value here is on LSU to cover at minus 110 odds at Betfred. Every other book, we see them all favor LSU covering, right? FanDuel at minus 115, Bet Rivers at minus 118, Bet365 has the most favorable at minus 125, and then Pinnacle, the sharpest sportsbook in the world, at minus 122. So you open up this one in an event page, or open up the event page in a new tab, I should say, and we see other sportsbooks price it below this amount. So every other book that prices this has their main line at 17. BetMGM, PointsBet, Caesars, Bet365, DraftKings, WinBet, Tipico, Bet Rivers, and then this obviously, again, very important, BetOnline. And BetOnline has this at plus 17, so a half point better, and they favor it going towards the LSU side. So they have the LSU side at minus 112, the Georgia side at minus 108. They favor LSU at this number. And then Circa and Pinnacle have it at 17 as well. And this is another example, right? Like when you're betting on football, there are key numbers to get in front of, like 14 or 17 points, 2 touchdowns and a field goal. If that happens, win by exactly 17, which is a normal winning margin based on how scoring works in football. This extra half point is very, very important. LSU loses by exactly 2 touchdowns and a field goal. This plus 17 pushes. Our plus 17.5 wins. Literally the difference between winning and losing. So I know it's kind of easy to say, well, what's it matter? You're only beating the closing line you're only beating it by half a point. That's not that big of a deal. It is in the long run, right? If you're betting enough bets, it can, like, let's pretend every bet you're placing, you're betting minus 110 odds, which is pretty standard, right? I mean, if you're betting main lines, they're always going to be at minus 110. No, not always. They're more often than not going to be at minus 110. Let's say you win 50% of your bets at minus 110. Not bad. You're winning half your bets. That's not horrible. Well, guess what? You're losing money because of the odds, right? Because you're betting at minus 110. Now let's just up that win percentage from 50 to 55. Just a 5% difference. Doesn't really feel that differently winning 55% of your bets versus 50. Well, guess what? You are now making money. So if you placed 1,000 bets, $100 per bet at minus 110 odds, you won 50% of those bets, you would lose 5K, right? You would be down 5K from that, winning half of your bets. You up that to 55, you're winning like 4.5K. You're profiting 4.5K. So it's literally almost a 10K difference just from going from 50 to 55. And one really easy way to go from 50 to 55 is to just consistently beat the closing line, even if it's by only half a point. So I don't want to scoff at only beating it by half a point or whatever. So anyways, this is going to be my third and final college football bet for championship weekend. So if you're tailing any and all of these 3 bets, comment and let me know. But that's all I got. So I appreciate you guys watching and have a good one.